Hey everybody, welcome to True Crime Freaks, my new podcast. I want to tell you about the different ways you can support this podcast. One is you can go to my other podcast, Lights Camera Pro, where I interview TV and film professionals about their careers. And I also do movie reviews and TV show reviews. You can check out one of my online courses. I've got an Adobe Premiere Basics course and a Secrets of How to Start a Podcast course. Those are at thinkific.com. Just search them when you go there. We also have a merch store. Just search the podcast at teespring.com and check out our hoodies, t-shirts, and mugs. I also have a children's book called Feldman Runs Away, which is on amazon.com. You can always support the podcast by going to Apple or Spotify, wherever you listen, subscribe, rate, and review. This podcast does have graphic content. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Thanks, everybody. Chanin Starbuck was a mother of 5 children. She was about to start a new career. She had many lovers and was worried that her ex-husband Clay may kill her. This is the murder of Chanin Starbuck. This episode is from Dateline's Cold December Morning, KXLY News, findlaw.com, and a Cold December Morning Facebook page. Chanin Starbuck was found strangled to death and severely beaten in her home in Deer Park, Washington. The sheriff's department immediately started investigating Clay Starbuck, her ex-husband, and the several men she had been dating from online dating apps. Clay and Chanin were divorced twice. They divorced a second time in 2011. Clay had left his job as an oil worker because of back problems, and he owed Chanin $9,166 in back child support. And he was upset. He sent her nasty messages, and according to Chanin's mother and brother, Clay stalked and harassed her. And Chanin told them, "If anything happens to me, Clay did it." On Thursday, December 11th, Clay texted Chanin and told her that his car broke down and could she pick up the kids at school. Clay's phone was then turned off. Chanin took the kids to school. On 9:18 a.m. on December 11th, Chanin's phone called 911. The responder missed an audibly painful sound like someone was hit hard, struck hard with something. Here is the 911 call.
911, what are you reporting? Hello?
Chanin Starbuck made the brief call, but it was disconnected seconds later. KXLY4's Annie Bishop tells us that deputies never showed up because a 911 operator failed protocol.
Okay, so there's a 911 call. The operator answers and says hello. And before he says hello, it sounds like someone being hit in the stomach or on the head and the body really hard. It's like, ugh. And then nothing, silent. And he's like, hello, hello. So in his defense, he didn't hear the person say anything. And it was just that one physical sound of being hit hard. So they never really knew about this 911 call, and they had to investigate it later and find it later. At 2:45 p.m., one of Chanin's daughters texted saying, "Who's picking them up at school?" Her phone responded, "Dad, I have a headache, stay there." Her phone then sent a text to Clay's phone saying, "I just woke up, can you pick up the kids?" Clay Starbuck called the Spokane County Sheriff's Office to ask for a welfare check the next morning. This is so awful. Not only did the killer beat Chanin so bad that she had 11 broken ribs, Shannon had also been strangled with something soft like a towel or a sheet or a chokehold with an arm. And she was severely beaten. Her body was posed with several sexual toys, and the killer hated her. He humiliated her. She also had an injury to the brain. She had been hit with a stun gun and her hands were bound. She was not only horrifically murdered, but she was totally humiliated. This was a very personal crime. Whoever did this absolutely hated her, and the sex toys suggest they hated that she was having sex with all these different men, that she was going on dates with all these different men, online dates. Clay Starbuck told the investigators at the scene and down at the sheriff's department that Shannon had been online dating and seeing several men at the same time. There was this whole ordeal with a married teacher who was texting Shannon on the day of the murder. He even stopped by the house several times, knocking on the door. He was dating Shannon and calling her from a payphone to hide his identity, so they thought he might be the killer. But it was because he didn't want his wife to find out that he was having casual sex with online dating sites. And he was eventually cleared. Clay Starbuck was arrested for Shannon Starbuck's murder on Monday, February 6, 2012 at 2:29 p.m. The police said that Clay Starbuck had said that his car had broken down, but he actually drove to Shannon's house and waited for her in her house. He tortured, raped, and brutally killed his ex-wife because of financial issues. He owed her a ton of child support, and he was going to continue to rack up the child support. And because he was so jealous that she was sleeping with all these other men. They had an on and off again relationship, and she partially may have been sleeping with these people to get rid of him. And also to be safe, because he was stalking and harassing her and had been in her yard, and she had changed her locks. Whether she was having sex with these men or not, if she had someone in the house, she probably felt more safe, and he probably lost his ability to harass and stalk her and just show up unnoticed, unannounced. The prosecutor filed charges against Mr. Starbuck on February 9, 2012. The document alleged 1 count of aggravated first-degree murder with 5 aggregating factors and 1 count of sexually violating human remains. The jury convicted Mr. Starbuck as charged on the 2 crimes and found that 4 of the 5 aggregating factors were present. The court imposed the mandatory sentence of life in prison without possibility of parole for the murder conviction. On June 26, 2015, a judge has denied the appeal of Clay Starbuck, who was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole for torturing and killing his ex-wife. Okay, so this guy, there's a lot of websites actually online that are saying that he's innocent and they didn't go after the right people, and it's probably one of these guys he was sleeping with. But nobody, if you're just casually having sex with someone, nobody has the kind of violence and anger where they're going to break 11 ribs, give someone brain damage, tie them up with zip ties, hit them with a stun gun, and then after brutally assaulting them, putting these sex toys all over the room as if to humiliate them, and possibly while she was still alive. I mean, it's just a very, very personal murder. There's no way that one of these other men did this. And surprisingly enough, I mean, there's a lot of reasons for it. And I understand it in a certain extent, but all 5 of his kids think that he's innocent. I just don't think they have the perspective to look at it from an objective point of view. That's just my opinion. What's your opinion? Let me know on social media. So, Shannon Starbuck's mom and brother have a final message for Clay Starbuck after he's convicted in the courtroom. Here's the audio of Shannon Starbuck's mom and Shannon Starbuck's brother both talking about Chanin in the courtroom.
A courtroom filled with tense emotions, anger, and disgust from victim Chanin Starbuck's mother.
Clay Dwayne Starbuck, I hate you with every cell in my body.
Melanie Boursier said Chanin once told her, if anything happens to me, investigate, investigate, investigate Clay. She was visibly shaking as she called Clay a sociopath, a murderer, and even compared him to Ted Bundy.
A spineless creature. Clay, you are without a soul.
The court also heard from Chanin's brother, sister, and several close friends. Many of them have flown from Florida for every court hearing.
Judge, we hope you sentence Clay to the maximum sentence possible. I want Clay to spend the rest of his life looking over his shoulder the way my sister spent the last couple of years of her life.
Okay, so I had gotten most of the way through this podcast and I came across this clip of Clay Starbuck talking about how he really didn't know how someone could, put these sex toys around a room in court. So let's listen to this clip also.
Clay Starbuck took the stand today, confidently answering questions from his own defense attorneys. Starbuck wasn't even afraid to admit that he had secretly installed spyware on his wife's computer before their divorce was finalized.
And why did you place the keylogger on that computer?
I was suspicious of online dating activities.
Starbuck was also able to accurately testify that he cooperated with investigators at every turn, voluntarily providing his cell phone, DNA, and fingerprints. Starbuck also declared under oath that he did not kill Chanin.
Mr. Starbuck, did you see Chanin Starbuck on December 1st, 2011?
No.
Mr. Starbuck, did you kill Chanin Starbuck?
No, I did not.
However, under cross-examination, Starbuck couldn't bring himself to answer questions about the way that Chanin was killed and sexually violated after her death. And jurors must have found that unusual, given the graphic descriptions that Starbuck has heard during his trial.
Do you think that Chanin Starbuck's killer was trying to send a message?
I don't know.
Well, can you give us a fair estimation?
I don't know. That would only be assumptions.
Well, let me hear your assumption.
I don't really have one. I haven't given it much thought.
Starbuck went on to testify that he never gets mad or jealous, and that further eroded his credibility with a jury, given that he had just admitted moments before that he was spying on Chanin.
Okay, this is a similar story of a husband killing his wife, but this is very, very violent and very brutal. And also he humiliated her remains after he killed her violently, beating her senseless, and just, it's just very, very sad that someone could do this over child support and over jealousy. It's just horrific act to have done to someone that you have 5 kids with. I mean, it's unconscionable. So, I mean, some people pay $1,000 in child support. Some people pay $60,000 if they're a rapper, a musician, or athlete. Is it fair? Is it reasonable? Usually it isn't either. I promise you it will always be less than life in prison. This murder was especially heinous and stomach-churning. It was brutal and humiliating. And remember, if you are the spouse, you're killing both the parents. Now, one of the parents is dead, the mom, and the dad is in jail forever. And that should never happen to any child. So, is this going to stop? I don't know, but hopefully, with podcasts and documentaries and movies and all the content that's out there, articles about it, hopefully someday someone will think twice about doing this, because it's a really bad idea and it destroys communities. It doesn't just destroy the kids. It destroys everyone linked to them. So thank you all for listening. See you next week in the next chilling episode of True Crime Freaks, you freaks. And let me know on social media, what do you think about this case? Do you think that Clay Starbuck did kill Shannon, his ex-wife, over jealousy and child support? Or do you think he's innocent, like some people do on the internet? There's several websites that say that he's totally innocent. So let me know, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for listening, guys. See you next week in the next chilling episode of True Crime Freaks, you freaks. Thanks so much. Sean signing off. Hey everybody, welcome to True Crime Freaks, my new podcast. I want to tell you about the different ways you can support this podcast. One is you can go to my other podcast, Lights Camera Pro, where I interview TV and film professionals about their careers. And I also do movie reviews and TV show reviews. You can check out one of my online courses. I've got an Adobe Premiere Basics course and a Secrets of How to Start a Podcast course. Those are at thinkific.com. Just search them when you go there. We also have a merch store. Just search the podcast at teespring.com and check out our hoodies, t-shirts, and mugs. I also have a children's book called Feldman Runs Away, which is on amazon.com. You can always support the podcast by going to Apple or Spotify, wherever you listen, subscribe, rate, and review. This podcast does have graphic content. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Thanks, everybody. Thanks to Joseph McDade for the music. I will see you next time in the next chilling story on True Crime Freaks. Thanks for listening, everybody. Have a great day. I'm Sean Bertord. Take care.